Why not? All right, welcome to Muckboots in the Capitol state legislative updates for Oregon for the week of March 24th. Oops. As always, I am Alice Morrison, the co-executive director of Friends of Family Farmers, and I am in charge of our policy program. So I will be guiding you through all of our updates today, and I will silence my phone. Yeah, we got some exciting stuff to talk about today. So today we are gonna give an update on our priorities, talk about some hearings that happened last week, some hearings that are happening this week, and looking ahead kind of between now and the end of the first chamber deadline, and then give a little sneak peek about what we will be focusing on after that first chamber deadline on April 9th. So first things first, BOF priority area updates. Our first priority area is state meat inspection. No updates. We had our hearing for this bill quite early in the session. It passed unanimously. It's down in Ways and Means. We will be revisiting this bill and starting to focus on it again after the first chamber deadline when we go into budget advocacy and write our budget letter. So there are some Ways and Means road shows. The first one happened this past Saturday. They're coming to Astoria this week, then Warm Springs, LeGrand. There will be a statewide virtual testimony option on April 16th and Klamath Falls at the end of April. So look out for more activism on that. If you live in one of those communities, we might be reaching out to you. But also, we will be doing more advocacy on this in our budget letter process after the first chamber deadline. Small farm water access. We have a hearing scheduled. Woo! Okay, so our vehicle for this bill is HB 3372. We are working with Representative Owens, who is the co-chair of the House Agriculture, Natural Resources, Land Use, and Water Committee, House Ag for short, and we have a hearing scheduled on April 7th, 8 a.m. on April 7th in the House Ag Committee. This is wonderful for us because I don't know if you all remember how long a road this has been, but we were not sure that we would be able to bring this issue to the light of day and have a public hearing on this topic. Although it is the number one concern that our farmers have brought to us over the last 18 months, we had to fight very hard to get a public hearing on this topic and to discuss commercial garden allocations on domestic wells. We are really grateful for everyone who came out to Rally Day, the Small Farms Mean Business Rally Day on March 4th. That did make a big difference in our ability to put this forward. And we are going to have very limited in-person testimony. So we are lining up a panel of experts and also some farmers from key areas around the state. But for what you all can do out in the world is join us in the room on April 7th at 8 a.m. at the Capitol. If you would like to help us fill the room, we will be doing some outreach to folks who have signed up to get updates on this issue and who live within 50 miles of the Capitol. But we would love to have you there. The point that we're trying to make here is that we have our invited testimony panels to make sure that folks, we hit all of the notes necessary to make this argument clear that this is something that benefits Oregon, is not an irresponsible use of water, and in fact will help the stewardship and conservation of our rural and working lands by keeping them in responsible production. We are looking to fill that room so that folks know that we're watching the issue, that this is not a niche thing. This is something that the community cares about. We are also going to be releasing some instructions for written testimony this week. The best thing possible is to flood the record with a lot of supportive testimony in order to make sure that, you know, people are aware that it's not just folks who want to use this exemption for themselves, but also the community who benefits from having small farms available and community food systems and small farmers markets in rural communities and on and on and on. So we are working with the partners here, Water League, the State Grange Plug, and the Farmers Market Association, and our farmer base to make sure that we get a lot of supportive written testimony on the record. So those are two ways that we would love for you to be involved in this issue. Woo, so exciting. But what's in the bill? So the sponsor has not posted the amendment to OLIS yet. I feel like I say this every week, and thank you all for your patience. What we understand it to be from the meetings with the sponsor is that there will be a half-acre commercial garden allowance. So right now, you are allowed to use, you're allowed to irrigate a half acre for anything you want, as long as you don't sell a single thing that comes off of that half acre. We, the amendment that will be introduced for HB 3372 will allow commercial gardening. So you will be able to sell things that come out of that garden within a half acre of irrigated land, and there will be a gallon cap associated with it. That is all we know about it. Like, the goal of this and the direction that it's going is to not have a fiscal associated with it. That's our goal. So we are just changing the exemption. To our knowledge, there is no requirement for registration or metering associated with this current proposal. We are hoping to see the language as soon as possible, and we are going to be having a community meeting about this with more details, because this is a topic that we could go on and on and on and on about. On Wednesday, so 2 days from now, March 26th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We probably won't need that whole time, but we're leaving plenty of time for questions and discussion. But join us virtually at 6:30 p.m. If you go to friendsofamilyfarmers.org/small-farm-water-access, there is a link for registration, and that is actually our campaign page for this issue, and all of the updates on the progress of it and all of our position papers and things like that are all linked there. So it's a great thing to bookmark because that page will just be continuously updated. So check out the community meeting, and we hope to have more to say to you very soon, but we're so excited that there will be a hearing on this issue before the deadline, and the work session has also been scheduled. It is scheduled on April 9th, which is the deadline. So if things go wrong, that is difficult, but we are confident that with a good community showing, we can push this issue forward and get it out of the House Ag Committee and keep this concept alive to go over to the Senate. And if that doesn't happen, then we have some other options, because we've done a really, really thank you all to everyone in community who has welcomed us in and given us so much input, because we've done so much stakeholder outreach on this topic that we have been exploring other options if the legislative path doesn't work out. But we don't have to go there yet, because we have a hearing and a work session, and we are focusing on that for the moment, but do not lose the faith. All right. So hearings last week. So today is the 24th. So we're talking about hearings that happened the week of March 17th. HB 3133, the farm stand changes. That bill had an informational hearing, which FOF spoke at to talk about our position on changing farm stand law. This was an informational hearing because that bill is not moving forward. They determined during the work group that we were also a part of that the changes that needed to be made could be made through rulemaking. And so the Department of Land Conservation and Development, DLCD, who the land use department at the state, had a meeting on Thursday of last week, so the 20th, and or 19th, sorry. They passed a resolution to start a rulemaking process, including farm stand, and then subsequently also changes and clarifications to agritourism. So we are in contact with DLCD and are very focused on being present in that rulemaking process, and to keep our farmers' voices and the necessity of diversifying farm income, while also making sure that we are prioritizing keeping land in production. So, and accessible to those who want to produce food or farm products for a living. So more info to come there, and we plan on being a big part of that rulemaking process, and there will be public comment periods associated with that, but they will be later this summer. So thank you for everyone who's weighed in on that topic in our feedback channels as well. Also, yes, last week was the Department of Human Services budget hearing. So Ways and Means has been going through its budget hearing process. So they're going agency by agency. And this one, we have the Department of Education and the Department of Ag have their budget hearings this week, but last week had the Department of Human Services, and we submitted testimony in favor of the inclusion of the Double Up Food Bucks program, which is the SNAP matching program for farm stands, farmers markets, CSAs, and some grocery stores to double the impact of SNAP and make local food more accessible to folks who are SNAP eligible. And that program is included in the Human Services budget at continuing service level, and we submitted some testimony in favor of keeping it there. All right. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing so good on time. All right, so we have some hearings coming up this week, the week of March 24th. So tomorrow morning is the Food for All Oregonians hearing. So this is a bill that FOF has supported across multiple sessions. When it was introduced in 2023, it was in kind of just an inclusion of all eligible folks, regardless of immigration status, in SNAP eligibility. Excuse me. But the bill this time is a little bit more narrow to keep the budget ask a little smaller. And so now it is only youth and seniors. And so it's folks who would otherwise qualify for SNAP benefits if immigration status was not an issue. So right now, in this country, only American citizens and citizens of countries or U.S. protectorates who have a specific agreement with the U.S. government are eligible for SNAP. So that means that any other person, if you're undocumented, if you're here on a visa, if you're a guest worker, like many of the farm workers in our state, or if you're here for any reason, any reason at all, you would not be eligible for SNAP if you were not a U.S. citizen or a citizen of one of the U.S. protectorates or certain diplomatic relationships. So this would be to open SNAP up to folks who qualify, regardless of immigration status, if they are youth or seniors. And there is a hearing 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, 3:25, in the Senate Human Services Committee. Written testimony is due on the 27th at 8 a.m. FOF is in support of this because, number one, many farmers and farm workers use SNAP to feed their families. And also, SNAP is an investment in the community. And there's a lot of data that's out there that says that every SNAP dollar spent generates about $1.50, so $1.50 of economic activity in the local community, because it's not like other government incentive programs. SNAP dollars are spent. They're not saved, they're not invested, they're spent. And it's a good investment in our local communities. We also support SNAP matching programs to make local food more accessible. It's a multi-bottom line good thing for our community to make food more accessible, and food is what farmers are all about. And regardless of where you were born, you deserve to eat. So we are going to be submitting testimony on that one. Also, the Department of Education budget is up on Wednesday, the 26th at 1 p.m. in the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Education. That's HB 5515, the Department of Education budget. We are supporting the farm to school programs inclusion there, and supporting the Oregon Farm to School and School Garden Network's call to increase that support from the state for the farm to school program. This is especially important because a lot of the local food purchasing dollars from USDA that enabled farm to school programs and farm to food bank programs and all kinds of things like that are under review or being stripped at this moment. And so the state needs to honor its commitment to the farm to school program. It's an incredibly successful program. It feeds children. It puts more money in Oregon farmers' pockets. It helps close the loop on supply chains. It gives more opportunity for farms to scale appropriately and enter wholesale markets. It's a wonderful program. And so the state should continue its investment and increase its investment in light of some of those federal resources going away. So we are going to be submitting testimony saying all of that, and we encourage you to do so as well. There are templates available from the Oregon Farm to School and School Garden Network that we will link to on our 2025 session webpage on our website in the advocacy section. So those are two things that we're watching this week. Looking ahead. So last week on our update, we talked about where we are in the session and the fact that we are coming toward the first chamber deadline. So Friday, March 21st, was the deadline for scheduling public hearings and work sessions. So if something doesn't have a work session on the calendar now, if it didn't have it by Friday, then that bill is not moving forward. So just to reiterate, if you have something that you've been following and that bill does not have a work session on the calendar right now, that bill is not moving forward. It doesn't mean that the concept isn't moving forward. They could still amend some key points into another bill, or if it's a budget bill, it could, show up in budget reconciliation. But if it hasn't had its work session scheduled by now, and the work session has to be completed by the end of the day on April 9th. And this is the first timeline where if these deadlines are not met, that will kill a bill. It means it's not moving forward in that vehicle, and the person who's behind it or community that's rooting for that has to either find a different vehicle to move forward, or they need to get ready to try again in a different arena like rulemaking or ballot measure or what have you. But this is the first time in this session where things are being taken off the table. So after April 9th, our focus will be more narrow because right now everything is still possible. And we're going to be narrowing our focus to what is still alive after that April 9th deadline. So you'll notice kind of a shift in the session and a shift in how many bills we discuss in these updates because there will be less on the table. Oops. All right, so upcoming hearing deadlines. Like I said, April 7th is FOSS Domestic Well Commercial Garden Bill in House Ag at 8 a.m. There is also going to be hearings on April 8th for both SB 80, which is to disallow large and large tier 2 confined animal feeding operations in groundwater management areas, and the SB 1154, which is the governor's groundwater management area protection act, I think is what they're calling it. And that is some measures to be taken to remediate current groundwater quality programs in these. A groundwater management area is a part of the state, a defined area with borders that has a groundwater quality problem. So groundwater contamination that can be from industry, from industrial ag, from some kind of deposits in the soil. We have 3 of those in our state currently. One that is getting a lot of press right now and is really damaging to human health is the Lower Umatilla Basin Groundwater Management Area, which is it crosses over Umatilla and Morrow counties. It's close to Boardman, Oregon, and the Port of Morrow. And that one has some pretty well documented and extensive nitrate contamination. And the largest contributing factors are some of the largest dairies in the state, as well as the Port of Morrow and land application of waste from those dairies. And this is all very well documented and part of the EPA's investigation into this and their current state of emergency out there. We have 2 other groundwater management areas. I happen to live in one of them in the South Willamette Valley. So it's like northern Lane County in Junction City where I live, up through the I-5 corridor with like the Lynn-Benton County line, up toward like Harrisburg, and I think just south of Albany, not quite to Corvallis. And so that area also has a nitrate problem. And that can be linked to overapplication of fertilizers in other cropping structures. We don't have a lot of industrial animal ag in this area, but we do have some pretty heavy industrial plant-based agriculture here. And then the third one is down in the Malheur County area. And that one is also a pretty large area and is related to nitrate contamination. So this bill, SB 1154, is a governor's supported bill, which will strengthen some regulations and demand some action in remediating those water contamination problems. So both of those bills, the CAFO limitations in Guamas and the Guama remediation bill, are having hearings on the same day in Senate Natural Resources. And there will be a rally at the Capitol that morning. I will be there. If you'd like to come, let me know. And it's not just us, it's the whole Stand Up to Factory Farms Coalition and the Oregon Rural Action Coalition, who's been organizing the folks out in the La Guama in Northeast Oregon for quite a while now, coming to demand action on clean water. So that's going to be super fun and right at the deadline. So wish us luck there. There will also be written testimony opportunities for those bills. All right, so after those deadlines, then we are going to pivot toward our budget letter and doing some advocacy around getting things funded and making sure we put on paper the programs that we view as vital to small farms and community food systems here in Oregon. We are, of course, going to be talking about our meat processing bill 2164. And then we're also going to be talking about all the other things that I mentioned, like farm to school, double up food bucks, the Oregon Ag Heritage Program, the natural and working lands, and of course, the disaster resilience, food system resilience grant funds for Oregon Community Food Systems Network and Oregon Farmers Market Association. Those grant funds have been incredibly meaningful for our communities, and we would really love to see the state to continue investment in the community food system and making us a more resilient place to grow food and eat local food and make sure that we can continue to take care of each other. So that budget activism will be, started with writing out the Friends of Family Farmers budget letter, and then we will release that to legislators and go talk to them about our priorities, especially those who are on Ways and Means subcommittees related to our topics, mostly natural resources, but also the Ways and Means subcommittee on education, things like that. Then our bills that are not going to Ways and Means. So hopefully the commercial garden water bill and things like SB 809, the inclusion of poultry in the state meat inspection program, things that are just policy changes that are not related to requesting money from the state. Those things will have second chamber hearings in their policy related committees. So for example, the water bill HB 3372, we have our hearings scheduled for House Ag, and then that will likely be transferred over I'm going to say when it passes, not if. When it passes out of the House, it will be given over to a Senate committee, most likely the Senate Committee on Natural Resources. And so then we will have a hearing in that committee as well, and there will be possibility for more amendments. There will be all kinds of debate and everything, and it has to get out of that committee to go to a floor vote in the Senate for it to officially pass and be sent to the governor for signature. So we have two things to look at after this first chamber deadline: is budget advocacy and asking for money, and then policy advocacy in the second chamber hearings. So yeah, so that's kind of where we are in the session and how folks can get involved. I think that's it for my presentation, which is great because we are 3 minutes from the end.